Hey, 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 what's good, folks? Um, so yeah, I had a little technical difficulties. So that's my bad. Okay. All right. So hey, it's Lil Guillotine. How are folks doing during this time of quarantine? Hope folks are hanging in there. I know it's been a long ass time, and now it's like springtime, and so yeah, the feeling's a little different about being stuck inside and shit like that. Hope everybody's doing good, keeping positive thoughts, staying healthy mentally, physically, and dentally, and all other ways that you can stay healthy. And so, yeah, apologies for the difficulties there. I guess I pre-scheduled a live stream, but apparently I chose use streaming software, and I don't have streaming software. I thought it was just going to be a webcam. So bear with me. Apologies for getting that twisted. But now I know going forward. And so, yeah, what's up, Emiliano Rivera Lara? How you doing? Um, yeah, so uh, yeah, so like so the reason that I wanted to go live, right, is because basically trying to emulate sort of successful lefty YouTubers. And like specifically, I'm talking about Vaush, Vaush, who is pretty popular leftist YouTuber. I checked out his channel, like what kind of content he's putting up there, and he goes live all the time and just does talks about politics. And even though it doesn't seem like it, I actually am definitely camera shy, so a little bit I'm getting over it now, but a little bit anxiety coming on here live, so I tend to not do it. But I know it's a good idea to grow your channel if folks are growing their own channels out there. I don't know if folks got their own channel that they're doing on YouTube. Drop a link in the comment. Folks can go check it out for sure. Appreciate y'all coming here right now. And so yeah, the reasons are multifold to go live. It's like, first of all, you can pump out content pretty quickly when you go live, as opposed to when I go to like a studio with a green screen, which I usually do, record some political videos, and then I do a whole crap load of editing. It takes like days sometimes to make some of those high quality videos and things like that. This way, you're able to pump out content pretty quickly, which is advantageous. And then, of course, you get to see some of my personality more when you're live, as opposed to like when I don't read scripts on my other YouTube videos, specifically talking about the chopping block, right? I don't read scripts, but I do have an outline, and then I kind of freestyle, but then I edit it so much, and it's not very personable, right? So this is a lot more personable. So that's why I wanted to explore going live. And so I'm thinking that going live once a week would be a good thing. So look out for the weekly go lives and just talk about politics and things that are going down around the world. You know what I'm saying? And give it the leftist political analysis that I have. Um, so yeah, I got a pink outfit on. I got pink hair. Kind of showed up pretty good. I have pretty dark hair, but I had to bleach it like 3 times over several months, because if you bleach it too often, your hair like falls apart. And then I could get the pink to show up a little bit. It kind of faded out right away. My 8-year-old daughter was asking me the other day, "Oh, what's your favorite color?" Because I used to say green, right? I remember saying green since I was like a kid. So yeah, green's my favorite color. And but no, it's different now. Like I enjoy pink. Pink is my favorite nowadays. And so, what about y'all? What's your favorite color? Huh? Yeah. So, so yeah, I got like an outline of things to talk about. Like, let me know what. I know not 100% of you follow my channel for my political content. I know some folks follow me for my music, and that's dope too. My music definitely has some leftist slants, very hard leftist slants, not just some all the time. And so, there's that. But let me know what folks. Uh, let's see, un poquito. Hablo español un poquito a veces. Visité República Dominicana. What is that? That's been like 7 años. Hace 7 años, and I did okay. Hace bien, hablando español. I think I'm making a lot of errors right there, but I could get by. You know what I'm saying? I took a few semesters in college, so yeah, definitely no. But United States is the fourth largest Spanish speaking country in the world, right? And so like I think it behoove everybody to learn Spanish here and to know Spanish here, and I definitely need to practice more. So looking to do that, you know what I'm saying? And Emiliano, where are you from, by the way? Are you here in the US? Hey, Luis Enrique Munoz. Hey, man, I just found your music on Facebook. Greetings from Mexico. All right, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for following and thanks for showing up. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, like so the weather here is getting a little bit warmer, right? It was like 40 degrees, so that's really nice. Personally, I'm a gardener. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, so I'm getting off topic, right? The first time I've done this. I was gonna say, what kind of news sources do folks, listen to for their kind of leftist politics? There's several sources I like. I like itsgoingdown.org. That's a really good site for anarchist analysis around news and political events in around the world, but mainly in the United States. And then Democracy Now! I see that every day. Democracy Now! Has a little bit of a liberal slant, or like liberal-ish, but it's progressive, right? But it's to the left. It's left progressive, I would say. And so, yeah, just watch Democracy Now! And like checking out the headlines and things like that. And I made some lists. So I'm here in Wisconsin, in the United States, in Madison specifically, Madison, Wisconsin, which is the city capital. Excuse me, the state capital. And apparently, I found out that we have the stimulus bills that are getting passed or should be getting passed, right? Because Biden promised us all $2,000 checks. Well, first it was like $2,000 checks, and then it got dropped down to 1,600, and now it's like not even happening, right? So it's like these campaign promises that Biden has failed to like follow through on. And don't get it twisted, I'm not a Trump supporter in the slightest, right? I just don't support Democrats necessarily. I think we need a better party, or just no political no capitalist government, no capitalist state at all, right? Participating in that is a little bit unproductive, if you will. But nonetheless, Biden and the Democrats and Kamala Harris, like she outvoted the Republicans the other day to bring the discussion about the new stimulus bill to the Senate floor. But then apparently one of the senators from Wisconsin, Ron Johnson, did this like ridiculous filibuster move where he made one of the, I forget what they're called, like the people who aren't politicians, clerks, I think. He made one of the clerks read aloud the bill, the stimulus bill, every single word of it. So, because I guess that's their right as a senator, they can force people to read the bill that they're going to be discussing. And that ended up taking like 12 hours or something like that of dude just reading straight through. And that ends up being like a filibuster, right, where you're like preventing anything from going forward for as long as possible, just for the sake of stalling out people and hopefully getting some of the politicians to like get tired and not want to vote for it anymore or whatever. So yeah, pretty shitty move there by Ron Johnson, although technically in his right or whatever, like not breaking any rules, just utilizing the rules that like he has, the powers that he has to do bullshit, right? Yeah, and Ron Johnson's pretty fucked up individual that I'm very not a fan of. Yeah, he's like a right-wing senator here in Wisconsin, and yeah, he was like endorsing the Capitol uprising of the fascists who like stormed the Capitol last month, January 6th, and just a slew of problematic politics coming from this guy. So yeah, he's a horrible person. Yeah, it was like yesterday in the United States, there was 1,800 coronavirus deaths, which is pretty messed up. And yeah, let me know what country you are in, like what kind of deaths y'all are stacking up. I know there's the popular sentiment that the United States population is so huge, and it really just plays along into the sort of American exceptionalism arguments that, oh, it's different here for whatever reason. The rules of logic and politics and philosophy and math and science and statistics don't apply here because we're special, whether that be as an excuse to start colonializing different countries, or as an excuse for why, we have one of the highest child, newborn infant death rates, and like racist incarceration. Oh, it's different here or whatever. And so you see, when in the past, whenever you talk about, oh, we lead the world in coronavirus deaths, people talk about, oh yeah, but your population is so much huger, so you can't compare it. But let's dig into the statistics a little deeper. Let's look at ratios of the population versus the deaths, and we also lead in those categories as well. So I know in Mexico, I think it's a little better. I'd be interested to hear what's going on with policy and things like that. And then, yeah, that brings another thought up, which is, here in the U.S., there's this really big push to open up schools everywhere, right? Which is really problematic, in my opinion, because they want to open up the schools and they're not going to give the teachers any vaccines, and they haven't really given any schools any extra resources beyond what they already have, which is like dwindling resources. And so they're putting teachers at risk of getting sick and dying, and also spreading the virus to the broader community. Kids don't die at as high a rate from coronavirus, obviously, but they definitely carry it to other folks in the community who do. And so it's just too early. And you see this as like a continuum of Biden's policies, right? So I talked earlier about how Biden hasn't followed through on campaign promises for stimulus relief. But he has followed through on this promise to open up schools, right? Because that's what I remember. I made a video, a chopping block, about the presidential debate back in, I think it was November, but it could have been the month before the election. Whenever Trump and Biden were debating, and Biden, part of his platform, part of what he was talking about, was that he was going to open up the United States quicker than Trump did, and he was going to do it safely and provide personal protective equipment and all that. And so that's one campaign promise, which I thought was a ridiculous thing in the first place, that he's really followed through on, without the increased PPE, personal protective equipment, and everything like that. And he's doing it via the CDC, right? So like the CDC put out this report or statement that it's okay to open up schools now. But we know that, and not to be like anti-science or anything like that, but we do know that the CDC is a political seat, right? Because the head of the CDC is appointed by the president for their cabinet. And so yeah, conveniently, after Biden got into office, the CDC put out this memo note about how it's okay to open schools now, which is exactly what he had planned to do, according to what he was saying in the debate anyways, which is messed up. Like, personally, I wouldn't vote for someone who wants to open up the country. And it's like, before the election and before Trump was out, everybody associated with opening up the country with sort of right-wing rhetoric, right? Like, it's a right-wing stance. But now that the Democrats are in office and have a majority in the House and the Senate, and they have the presidential seat, obviously Biden, like, folks are okay with it. And that's just like part and parcel to how the Democrats are the graveyard of the social movement, and how the Democrats are able to push through more regressive and repressive policies than the Republicans are most of the time, because of the fact that folks adopt and sort of blindly follow them as being the lesser of two evils, when in fact they aren't. If you look at the history of sort of the policies that Democrats have put forth, it's pretty problematic, again and again and again. Okay, so and Luis Enrique Munoz says, here in Monterrey, Mexico, many politics had promised that if you vote for them, you could be able to get the COVID vaccine more easily. And of course, that is not true. Wow. Yeah. I guess that's really messed up, right? Because then it's like your vote is contingent upon like you living, right? So it's like it's almost like, yeah, when you say if you vote for them, we'll get you the vaccine quicker. It's like vote for me or die, you know? So yeah, that's interesting politics, and definitely they did that here too. So don't get me wrong, right? But then, but I know there's many more parties in Mexico, so that's interesting to think about. I wish we had that here. Although, you know, what good does it do if you just have a capitalist system, anyways? So far here in Mako, some private schools are rumored to open soon, even though there are still a lot of dead people because of COVID. Wow. Okay. Thank you for sharing that with American viewers and everybody else, because yeah, I didn't know, because yeah, it just shows like how this American exceptionalism BS is we're opening up schools faster than other countries, which you kind of knew. But thank you for sharing like your experience and your perspectives from Mexico, because I did not know that. But yeah, they're opening up public schools here right now, like mad, like wild, like crazy, and you know there's no personal protective equipment. Here in Madison, Wisconsin, some teachers kind of did like a soft little strike kind of picket line where they went outside and they had like a they were teaching folks, because you know many kids it's Monday here in Madison where when schools are starting, and it's just like I think it's just kindergarten for now, but they're going to do all elementary school pretty soon. So yeah, just a couple days and folks are going back to school. It's really messed up too because they're having the teachers do this dual thing. So they're giving you the option of not going to school, right? But they're not giving teachers that option. So now teachers, if students choose to stay at home and do virtual learning still, they can do that. But there's no more teachers or no more resources for the teachers. So now teachers have to simultaneously be teaching people in the classrooms, the teaching kids in the classrooms, and you know dealing with child behavior, because that's when you're talking about kindergarten especially, that's a handful at times, you know, and then at the same time teaching virtually, and it's like how the heck are teachers able to do that? And so they had a little demonstration the other day at the high school here, which I thought was really good. Yeah, we had the Chicago Teachers Association, which is a really cool, powerful, big teachers union here in the United States and Chicago, obviously. And you know they've been on the forefront of a lot of progressive and effective sort of you know workplace organizing around school stuff for like a dozen years now, for like 10 years or so. And they were the last holdouts against opening up the schools a few weeks ago. And I was hoping that the Chicago Teachers Association was going to be able to at least negotiate vaccines for teachers before they open schools, but they weren't able to do that. So I felt kind of let down. But it's like, what capacity does a union have in the first place? But they were like the last holdouts, and they were kind of, if they would have won that, like every teacher in the country probably would have had a strong case to get the same. And so yeah, that was the last linchpin that, like, you know, the capitalists and their managers, the school administrators and everything were able to fight through and just get them to open up schools anyway. And so in addition to the CDC like memorandum, there's the Department of Education, which is another politically appointed federal office that Biden has control over. And the Department of Education is, of course, pushing for schools to get open too. So it's happening all across the country. And we had 1,800 deaths just yesterday in the United States from COVID. And so it's really like this, like in my opinion, sort of like murderous. You know, it's like really problematic what these policymakers are doing in response to COVID-19. This especially, right? And so yeah, here in Dane County, the county that I live in, which is it's in the United States. I believe there's an analogs to counties in Mexico as well, or maybe not. But anyways, there's cities, and then there's counties, and then there's states, and then there's the federal government. Let me know, is there an analog to a county, or is it just go city and then a state government in Mexico? But anyways, or wherever you're at. But anyways, Dane County here in Madison, Wisconsin, just softened the restrictions for coronavirus. So now restaurants are able to sort of, have 50% seating capacity, where it was like 25% previously, and they're opening all types of things. And of course, it's all premature. and it's unsafe, right? And it's going to result in a huge spike of deaths. Like even one death is too much, right? Like this is people's lives they're playing around with. And the only reason that they're doing these things is for business, right? They want business as usual, and they don't want to have to make the capitalist billionaires and the corporations pay for subsidizing these businesses to stay around. They need businesses to start making profits, and they don't care how many people die, right? So it's profits over people, and you see it reflected in the policies of the city, county, state, and federal government. Here in the United States, it's really bad. I know some other countries, like you go look at Australia and New Zealand and things like that. And now that's kind of crossing over into like anarchist, communist sort of ideology and theory, right? Because it's like, a lot of anarchists, like autonomous anarchists. I consider myself an anarchist and a communist, an anarchist communist. A lot of anarchists feel that there should be, no help from the state. Like we don't need the states. But I think anarchist communists do see utility in utilizing the state as long as it exists, anyways, at least in certain ways, in thoughtful ways. And I think that like the state can really be a useful tool in if they had better policies in curbing COVID deaths and the spread of COVID here in the United States, but they've just been a large failure. And so, yeah, like I instead of this having the state like do regressive measures where they're like increase policing, start giving people tickets for going outside and breaking the quarantine orders. What I'd like to see the state as an anarchist communist do is provide people with funds like money so that they don't have to go to work and they don't have to go expose themselves to COVID and potentially spread COVID around even more. I think that would be the best way to utilize the state at this time as far as COVID policy. Like if folks were paid to stay home, they would stay home, right? As opposed to like, a lot of increased police presence that just disproportionately comes down on the backs of marginalized folks in society. That is not a good way to use the state. You know what I'm saying? And ultimately abolish the state. I think folks can run society by themselves. We're not close to that, obviously, but we do have something similar. We have municipios that are almost the same as counties. Okay, bet. Yeah, got it. So municipios and ciudades. Excuse me. That's some Wisconsin beer. We got great beer here in Wisconsin, by the way, if folks don't know. Really good beer culture. So, yeah, I was talking about vaccines. I got vaccines down on my list. So, yeah, and that also goes in with like the policy about COVID and paying people to stay home, right? Because it's like, I'm sorry, but the federal government has enough money, right, and resources, and they can print money, right? They print money, right? So look at the New Deal or whatever. Like you don't necessarily even need money. You just make shit happen, right? The federal government could have already gotten enough vaccines. They could have, and now we're getting into like problematic areas, but I'm going to say that they could have nationalized. And so like, I don't always agree with folks when they say that they should nationalize this and that and this and that, because we don't necessarily want the federal government, the capital, who are basically representing the capitalists, to be in charge of everything. Nationalizing is not always the answer. But in this case, since it's a health emergency, the federal government could have nationalized these vaccine companies, these pharmaceutical companies, months ago, right? Took them over and pumped it into overdrive, right? Like pay people money to get this shit done, pay scientists. But no, they want to keep it all private property and, privately controlled. And these pharmaceutical companies, which everybody knows around the world, American pharmaceutical companies are unscrupulous. They're what I'm trying to say, useless. There's some other word, but useless, right? They're wholly like unnecessary. And they're super horrible capitalists. You know what I'm saying? Oh, President Longboy, what's up? Haha, nice. Everybody, President Longboy has a YouTube channel. You should definitely go check out President Longboy. I might be in and out of the video. All right. Yeah, so the vaccines could have been nationalized, they could have done been made already, and they could have done been distributed. You know what I'm saying? Like nationalize that shit. The New Deal, but with vaccines, get that shit done. Stop playing with people's lives. You know, this is the Democrats for you. That's profit over people, but it's with a soft face, right? It's with a soft facade, a smiling facade. So many people fall for that, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Democrats," and all you hear, right, constantly is, "Oh, give them a moment. You're being too hard on them. Look what Trump gave them." That's the rhetoric all the time, right? But yeah, that I just don't buy that. I'm not into that rhetoric. I don't go with that rhetoric. Our politicians and the folks who have power and control over policy need to be delivering regardless. They don't need time. They just need to get it done. There's people's lives at stake. You know what I'm saying? And here's another thing I had was like Syria and China. It says on my notes here. So basically, it's like the U.S. and Biden's administration has increased attacks or started, doing having more military presence in Syria again, which of course has been at civil war for so many years now. Geez, I'm trying to think it's 15 years now or something. That's wow. I should probably know my facts. So drop it in the comments. How many years has Syria been in civil war? Was it 2011 or something? So yeah, I should probably know that. My bad. But yeah, that just goes to show you. And then you got Biden posturing up against China, right? Like taking the sort of corporate wars to another level, and uh, even talking about like a military intervention or whatever, like getting the military involved in conflicts with China, which is stepping up stuff against China like way higher than Trump ever had it. And the reason he's able to do this is because he has a smiling face, a pretty facade. Folks say that the Democrats are the good guys and the lesser of two evils or whatever, but really they are just as evil, if not more evil than the Republicans. That also brings up this one point about like Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? Despicable person, hate right wing, QAnon, freaking people that was like all these problematic reactions about the Capitol storming, encouraging people, and all that. But I think the focus on Marjorie Taylor Greene is problematic, right? Because it's like this anti-idolatry. It's like everybody focuses on a scapegoat, right? And in this case, a good scapegoat, because they're a piece of crap, right? Very, very problematic person. You wish they didn't have any political power at all. The kind of politics they're talking about with their QAnon conspiracies and fascist adjacent rhetoric that they put forth all the time. But I think that whenever the mainstream media and many neoliberals are focusing on Marjorie Taylor Greene, what it serves to do is take attention off the Democrats, which is where attention needs to be, and just puts it onto a scapegoat. And it's like as soon as Trump was gone, it was Marjorie Taylor Greene, when really it needs to be Biden, right? What's up with you, Biden? Why haven't you got these vaccines out? Why the heck are you opening up schools? Why are you increasing military imperialism in Syria and messing around with China like you're doing? It's extremely problematic. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So let's see, Texas. Yeah, Texas Energy stuff. I saw on Democracy Now. I think it was. Oh, and in the future, I'm gonna figure out how to like have the my screen share up on YouTube. I think you need to have some software or something like that, so it'll be better visuals. But every Friday we're gonna do a live stream and talk about politics. Let me know if there's some topics you want to talk about. We could definitely talk about that. Put it in the comment section. Appreciate y'all for showing up, and thanks a lot for subscribing to my channel. I would be nothing without you guys, so appreciate y'all. We got 1,630 subscribers now, so really honored to have y'all. I know a lot of folks come to my channel for a few different reasons, but the number one driver, I think, and I'll have to go check, but because maybe it's changing now, is the Our Prison's Obsolete audiobook that I have up there. It's extremely popular. And it's funny, right? Because you know, YouTube is really bad, I guess, or you would say good at stopping copyright infringements, right? So if you put a song up on YouTube on your video that has a video up on YouTube that has somebody else's song that they own the copyright to, YouTube like automatically detects it and they take your video down, right? And so I know a lot of folks have problems doing audiobooks on YouTube, because if you do like a popular audiobook and read it on YouTube, it's gonna maybe give you a copyright strike, but it's definitely gonna like take your video down and say that you can't have this up because like their computer program content, it's called content something, I'm spacing on it, but their computer program will detect it. But with the and you know, Angela Davis, who wrote Our Prison's Obsolete, the audiobook that I read, definitely owns the copyright to that book. And I don't put any ads, I don't like make any money off of those videos, even though they have like, I think it's like 40,000 views on the first chapter, and then of course it gets smaller the more chapters you go in. But yeah, YouTube hasn't taken it down, even though they have with a lot of other stuff, and that has to do with like the communist spirit of like Angela Davis, right? So thankfully, you know, like folks, not all content, or like, you know, authors and folks who do politics are sort of in it for purely profit, right? And so yeah, Angela Davis is cool as heck and hasn't done any copyright strikes, even though she could get that video taken down. I think that, you know, Angela Davis is in it to change society, not so that she can make some couple bucks, or you know, thousands of bucks or whatever. And so I think it's, you know, it's in the interest of Angela Davis and the movement, and for the communist movement more broadly, the anti-capitalist movement, specifically, you know, abolitionist, anti-prison movement, for everyone to have that stay up there. You know what I'm saying? I'm not making any money off it. I don't want to make money off it. The reason I did it originally, I did the Angela Davis Our Prison's Obsolete audiobook, was because we were doing a study group in my political organization, one of the political organizations I'm in here in Madison. And I just thought it would be more accessible to folks, because so many folks like can't find the time or don't have the time to read, but they could listen to an audiobook while they're working or something on headphones. And that ended up being really successful. And actually the first audiobook I did was with Revolver Audio, which is a studio out of Madison that does a lot of good podcasts. You should check them out. REVOLOVER. Yeah, we did it was oh gosh, I'm spacing on a Sylvia Federici book that we were doing a study group. And so and then I did the Our Prison's Obsolete, because that piece of literature is very important and has some really groundbreaking theoretical abolitionist, you know, theory spelled out in it, very nice and accessibly to folks. I think it's a valuable political learning tool to have that audiobook up there. And so does Angela Davis. I should reach out to Angela Davis maybe and be like, yo, I got this up, by the way. Are you cool with it or whatever? Hey, yeah, for sure. Lyra Conejo, excuse me if I mispronounce that, I'm sorry. I've really appreciated the accessibility. Thank you. Yes, for sure. Yeah, that's the point. You know what I mean? If we can change society for the better, then it's worth so much. That's worth so much to me. I'll do it for free. You know, because that's what I'm in it for ultimately, is to try to rid society of all this horrible repression, oppression, racism, xenophobia, transphobia, homophobia, you know, classism, ageism, etc., capitalism, right? Excuse me. Yeah. So yeah, we were talking about Bitcoin, crypto. Yeah, let me talk about copyright stuff, right? Because while I'm there, I have this Bitcoin crypto thing down here. So yeah, I recently, you know, I'm a music artist, and I recently learned about these things called non-fungible tokens, which is like, there's these music artists who have been selling their music as non-fungible tokens, which is a kind of cryptocurrency, believe it or not. but it's a cryptocurrency that is different than like Bitcoin and Ethereum, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many kinds of cryptocurrency nowadays. What it is you kind of there's a lot to unpack here, so I don't know how much I want to go into that. I'm going to make a video about kind of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, but these non-fungible tokens are kind of interesting. You got artists like there's Deadmau5, you got 3Lao, Ill Bill, the RAC. The RAC and 3Lao are EDM artists. Ill Bill is a rapper, not that huge, but still. And Deadmau5 is EDM as well. And they've all put out these NFTs, these non-fungible tokens, where you can take your song, your WAV file, your master of your song, and you can upload it to the blockchain, which is like what cryptocurrency uses, and authenticate it. And so apparently this kind of technology hasn't been around before like a year and a half ago. So it's brand new, and folks are figuring out like how to utilize it for different things, which is really, really interesting. And so like I have some NFTs of songs on a couple different platforms. One is called OpenSea. The other is called Ghost Market. And Ghost Market transaction fees, they call them gas, is way cheaper. It's like almost free. So definitely check that out. I got a video up about that. I suppose I should leave a hey, what's up, Mocha Witch? Thank you, appreciate it. Yeah, I'll leave a link in the comments here when I'm done. But yeah, so like I'm learning about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency because I'm like I consider myself an anarchist communist, and so whenever you can get the state and the government like sort of out of people's lives, I believe most of the time that's going to be for the better, because people self-govern and they have the ability to make decisions on their own and do it in a way that's way better than any government that represents the capitalists could ever do. You know what I'm saying? And so like so for cryptocurrency, it's like that's interesting because with fiat currency, like the regular money system that we have before cryptocurrencies came around, the government has the ultimate say. They have power over it. They're the centralized authority that regulates and oversees the fiat currency system, and each government has power over their own fiat currency system. And so with cryptocurrency, it's decentralized, or most of them are anyways, not all of them. But that's sort of the one that's been taken off as the decentralized one. So no single entity allegedly, right, has authority or power over the policies and running cryptocurrency. And so in a way, it's like you can get the government removed from the situation of buying and selling stuff, at least on the local level, right? So yeah, it begs the question, is cryptocurrency sort of a good thing that leftists and anti-capitalist anarchists and communists and socialists will be able to utilize to sort of build grassroots movements against capitalism and things? Is that something that we could do with that? A lot of criticism comes from like Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is extremely energy intensive. It takes a lot of electricity to create Bitcoin, and that's part of the way that it's like designed, right? And there's other cryptocurrencies that aren't so much like that, right? So apparently Bitcoin has something that's called proof of work, right? So the blockchain that makes cryptocurrency possible, I'm not going to get into that too much right now, later I will, needs to have either proof of work on Bitcoin, right? So that's why you need to have proof that there's like a bunch of work being done by computers, and specifically energy and electricity intensive. And we all know the electric grid is predominantly fossil fuel, even though it doesn't need to be, right? But it is, because of the capitalists, and they're capitalizing. And so there's other cryptocurrencies that are called proof of stake, right? And so they get around this huge energy consumption that Bitcoin has, these problems, by instead of proof of work, they use proof of stake. And I'm finding it difficult to articulate like why they need the proof. I'm gonna have to look that up. It's cool for me to actually talk about it so I know what I don't understand and able to articulate. Right? They say until you've taught it to someone, you haven't really learned it yourself. Right? I think that's definitely the case here, but nonetheless, these proof of stake cryptocurrencies, they use way less energy. So instead of having to do a bunch of work with the computer to make cryptocurrencies, the Bitcoin, these other proof of stake, they require folks to stake some of the cryptocurrency back into the blockchain system, and that somehow maintains the validity and makes sure like the blockchain works or whatever. And this ends up being way less energy intensive. And so and that also begs the question, it's like whenever we're comparing Bitcoin to like fiat currency and we're saying that it can never be adapted, it's horrible for the environment, which I agree with Bitcoin, right? Because it is really energy intensive to being unrealistic, and we should probably get rid of that because it's no good. But are we looking at when we look at fiat currency, right? Like dollar bills and coins and all of the money transfer systems, the wiring systems that we already have in place and use that the government ultimately has control over? Do we ever account for the massive amounts of electrical energy and other kinds of energy that are used to make those systems work? And I think folks don't do that usually. When in the case of Bitcoin, it probably just outweighs it so heavily that it's not even worth taking a look at. But if you think about it, I know, what was the statistic? The U.S. Mint, I think, spends $6 billion. They spend $6 billion a year. That's their like budget to make sure that more money is printed, that the old ones, serial numbers, are coming back and getting burnt, new ones is getting printed. And so you have these really energy intensive manufacturing processes that are very industrial, and especially when you're talking about stamping coins, right? It takes a lot of energy to squish what do they call it? A planchet into a coin. And they do that. There's like billions and billions of pennies out there. And so I think we need to be realistic if we're talking about like an energy accounting of currencies. We need to be realistic about how much energy that this current system uses. So, and I haven't had any data. I didn't really have time to look that up. Maybe there's data on. Actually, I looked it up. I had a little bit of time to look that up, and all I could find was that the Treasury, the Mint, spends $6 billion. That's their budget to make all this stuff happen. $6 billion is a lot of money that indubitably goes in to pay for a lot of electricity and labor of folks and all this stuff. There's gas, right? Like you got truckloads of money getting moved here to here all the time, right? You see all the armored vans, cars out all the time. The Mint has theirs, and so there's tons of gas, and it's also a very energy intensive system. So just based on that, like the fact that like if some of these proof of stake cryptocurrencies are able to displace some of that energy, I think that's something we need to look at for the good of the environment, right? Let alone getting the government to not have power. So then I'd like to also talk on cryptocurrency and anarchism and communism, socialism. They have these really interesting governing policies or like governing rules that are written into a lot of these blockchains, right? So a lot of these cryptocurrencies, excuse me. And what they do is that the folks who have the cryptocurrencies actually get to vote on like democratically on what kind of changes happen to that cryptocurrency. Like, should they print more, or I don't know if you call it print, but should they make more of the tokens of the coins? Should they change it this way, that way? And that's actually it's pretty democratic, right? Because not only is it decentralized, but it's like you could get the decision-making power and start making decisions on how that cryptocurrency is run, which is I think like prefigurative, because that's kind of like the society we want to have, right? We want to have folks, we want mass democracy, you know what I'm saying? And like autonomous anarchists might disagree, like democracy is bad and that's cogent, you know what I'm saying? I think it's definitely better than what we have now. And then of course they're problematic as well too. Some of these cryptocurrency like decentralized decision making things, because ultimately there's like these teams of technical folks who a lot of times do end up having power over the voters, right? So the folks who hold the currency, who get the vote, like sometimes they could just be like, no, we're not going to do that for whatever reason, because we think da 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 da. They're the ones who are in control of like everything, right? The teams who like start these cryptocurrencies, ultimately they have some authority that's can be, depends on how it's set up, more than the regular stakeholders, the regular folks who are holding the Bitcoin who could vote. I'm sorry, the cryptocurrency, not the Bitcoin necessarily. And then so you see that you see this happening where folks who are in control of different current cryptocurrencies, they like won't agree, they can't agree on something, and they'll end up splitting. And this has happened a couple times. I think like Ethereum, which is like kind of the second biggest cryptocurrency out there, I would say. I'm not exactly big on that. Split from like Ethereum 2, which I guess is going to be starting up and getting big, because they couldn't agree on a certain, I don't know what it was, but a certain way of running their cryptocurrency. And so they end up splitting, which is, I think, healthy. You know what I'm saying? Like, for if we're talking about prefigurative politics in the society, we want to see like splitting up from a group kind of represents autonomy, right? So it's like, and is like anti-democratic. I shouldn't say anti-democratic, because I'm kind of in both houses. I'm an anarchist communist, so I see the value in complete autonomy, but also in democracy too, right? So it's like, but this kind of situation where you have democratic rights, but then also you have autonomy to split off and things, I think is pretty cool. Like I think that's a good system. Then we would be remiss if we didn't point out the fact that some of the cryptocurrencies give more voting power to the people who are richer, right? Who have more of the cryptocurrency. And I think that's problematic. Those kind of systems would not be good for like a prefigurative society, for anarchist society or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, and then the rich would just get richer. And I think that's the case with cryptocurrency, right? It doesn't do anything to stop capitalism, right? So capitalism still exists, with cryptocurrency or not. It's just that there's no centralized control authority. There's less authority, although it kind of, there's plenty of authority still for the capitalists when it comes to cryptocurrency, because the people with the money are able to make whatever kind of moves or whatever. And so like I was also getting into discussions with people on Twitter about like markets, right? So are markets something that would be present in a socialist or communist society after, say, let's theorize, as fun as it might be, or useless as it might be, let's theorize about what society would look like after we overthrow capitalism. And the question would be, would markets be necessary or not? Obviously, we don't want to have folks, markets control the cost of commodities that are necessary for, well, I mean, they're commodified, right, by capitalism. So like air, water, food, shelter, medicine. We would never want markets in a socialist or communist society to be able to control prices of those things. Like those things should be a inherent right, a human right. I mean, they are, in my opinion, but we just don't have it because of capitalist society and the way it works. But if markets were to exist in a communist or socialist society, like what use would they have? Some folks think they're just inherently useless and we would never need them. I like to think about like, what if everybody was given everything they needed, like, so there would be no shortage of supply and demand, and no markets for housing, food, medicine, water, air, everything you need to live, right? But then there could be markets for superfluous sort of items that that folks like don't necessarily need to live. And and you can make the argument, right? We decide as a society, like, computers, are those part of what you need to live? I think yes. You know what I'm saying? As part of human connection and this and that. That's a whole different conversation. But like, yeah, what about like the like different toys or something like that, or like video games or something like that? Like there could be a market in a communist or socialist society that ends up determining like for your toy that you like to play with as an adult or whatever, like how many other things that you would need to exchange for it. So like your I don't know, your stress balls. Like maybe you need, maybe that's a necessity, but or like so your toy, how many video games or whatever would you have to be able to trade fair for that to be fair, and then maybe for that to be a fair trade in a communist or socialist society, and maybe markets could do that for us, right? So you have to look and dig into like the Marxist politics. I think Marx did a good job at analyzing and shout out to Ibn Khaldun, who came up with political economy hundreds of years before Marx did, but he's an African, he's a black person, and so he's often not credited with creating the concept of political economy way before Marx did. Of course, Marx did good work on political philosophy of economics and how it pertains to liberatory struggles. But anyway, so Marx talks about use value and exchange value of commodities, right? And how, yeah. So like, yeah. So then let's like, if we take the exchange value out of items that people need to live, like air and water and things like that, so that they have zero exchange value, they only have use value, and there's no market for them. Those are just given to people, right? Then you may be able to use a market in a communist or socialist society. Ibn Khaldun. So yeah, you're talking about Ibn Khaldun. Yeah, it's spelled like this. It's really, and I haven't seen it. It's like that, but it's IBN for sure. Ibn Khaldun. He was like a North African political economist hundreds of years before Marx. Yeah, yeah. Not to diss on Marx, because Marx had some good stuff, good things. So yeah, so that was so yeah, what if there was a way to use cryptocurrency, to bring it back there, to like make the decisions, to as like a voting mechanism specifically, and not necessarily. So maybe like cryptocurrency in a socialist or communist society could be a way that the market, if you agree that that should exist, determines prices of the superfluous, at least superfluous to like basic human rights, like your game or your toy. What if cryptocurrency was able to be used for that as a low energy intensive type of currency, and then also you keep these democratic voting principles that some of these cryptocurrencies have too. I think that might, so in that case, I think there's at least a little bit of a case for cryptocurrency, at least in the future, maybe to be utilized in the struggles against capitalism. And so yeah, that's the theory that I'm putting forth. I haven't expanded much upon that, but y'all, thanks for hanging out with me. This has been fun. I'm gonna cut it out a few more minutes here at 6, try to make this like an hour. But yeah, I'm definitely, yeah, you're welcome, Lyra. Yeah, I'm definitely, like, I wouldn't say rambling, but I was wondering, am I gonna be able to talk for an hour, or is it just gonna be a bunch of silence? But yeah, it's fun. I enjoy talking to y'all. This is nice. So definitely gonna do this again next Friday. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I want to be mindful of people's time as well as myself. I got some other things to do, obviously. But real quick, in the last couple minutes, let me go through my points. I got, I guess I won't be able to expand upon them very much, but yeah, just the Texas Energy. Apparently they overcharged $16 billion Texas residents after the cold snap that happened there a couple weeks ago, which is really messed up, money grab, right? And then what they do is they have customers sign up, which is just like super unethical, where you can choose these like on-demand rates for electrical and gas energy that might change, and like you're signing this thing, oh, if there's some spike for some reason, I agree to pay increased rates that are very unfair, right? And so they took advantage, and it has to do with like oversight, right? So like these, and here's more of this. What good is the state? As an anarchist or an anarchist communist, I think oversight is one of them for these capitalist corporations that want to just gouge people unethically, because I mean that's in their interest. It's not unethical for them as a capitalist entity, but they overcharged $16 billion, and then they excuse it because, oh, you signed up for this, but nobody knew there was going to be a cold snap like that, a record cold snap that happened, in snow that happened in Texas, and that's because of what these energy companies are doing, right? They're polluting, they're using fossil fuel when they could be using renewable energies, and not to take the blame off of the policymakers who could be fixing some of these things. And by the way, Biden, also another promise of his, right, his campaign promise about renewable energy. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, and then the fact that the Republicans were talking about oh, it's renewable energy that is like causing the energy shortages in Texas, and that's just ridiculous. It's the lack of renewable energy that's caused climate change, that caused and the secular sort of the way that Texas has their own power grid that's kind of off grid from the rest of the country, because they're like secessionist type of feeling that happens in Texas. That's pretty prevalent there. And so yeah, they're not integrated, and so it's just like privately run, and these capitalists just run amok there with energy. And just thinking about all the people who are freezing and starving and shit, and then they get charged like $16 billion. It's like, overthrow that shit and just take that shit and feed people. Like, yeah, y'all don't need $16 billion, you useless clowns. You know what I'm saying? All right, one more thing was Cuomo. Can you believe this guy, dude? Cuomo, sexual harassment. Oh yeah. So what is it? The nursing, and with the just a couple more minutes here, but like what he did with the nursing home deaths, where it's like, oh, they didn't die in the nursing home, therefore that doesn't count as a COVID death inside of a nursing home. And like, yeah, he kept doing that apparently in New York to keep like the nursing home death numbers to be lower, so that he looked like he was a good policy maker and like a hero and shit. And it's like, yeah, it's really messed up how they play with people's lives for their politics and for their profits. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, we need to organize. We need to be building up these grassroots struggles. We need to be supporting Black liberation. We need to be throwing down for Black power, for people power, for anti-capitalist revolution. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. I thought that was a good note. That was about an hour. I think it went really well. I enjoyed spending time with y'all. Yeah, appreciate you. 100, 100, 100. So I'll catch y'all next Friday. Okay, let's do it at 5 again. I know some people do it earlier, but maybe let me know if a different time of day works better for y'all. Y'all showed up and are commenting, so I can prioritize y'all. But definitely Friday. All right, y'all. Thank you for tuning in for the first live episode, Politics. Okay, peace out. Appreciate y'all.